Good afternoon. Welcome to the Perris Union High School District Special Board Meeting of July 14th, 2020. The board will be respecting recent orders from the Governor of California, the Health Officer of the County of Riverside, and guidelines for the Center of Disease and Control related to maintaining public health and safety at this time. Consistent with these orders and guidelines, this meeting will be held online only, and there will be no physical meeting location open to the public. The board encourages members of the public to join the meeting electronically. In order to submit public statements electronically, please refer to the link at the bottom of the screen. Public comments will be accepted until board reconvenes the meeting in open session at 5:00 p.m. At this time, we'll go to item 2.1. This is a call to order. At this time, I'm going to ask for a roll call to determine a quorum. Trustee Arau?
Here, present.
Okay. Trustee Garcia is absent. Trustee Freeman?
Here.
Trustee Nellison?
Here.
And myself, Trustee Stafford. At this time, I will call the meeting to order at 4:02 p.m. We have established a quorum. All items requiring a vote will be an oral vote for this meeting, followed up with an electronic vote. Did we need an oral for this quorum? Or we just did that, so we're good. Okay, so there's no electronic vote for this. At this time, we'll go to item 3.1, invitation to address the Board of Trustees, closed session items only. Are there any public comments on closed session items?
No comments this evening, Mr. Stafford.
No comments. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. At this time, we'll go to item 4.1, which is adjourn to closed session. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have Trustee Nellison and Trustee Arau. We'll go for an oral vote. Trustee Arau?
Aye.
Trustee Garcia is absent. Trustee Freeman?
Aye.
Trustee Nellison?
Aye.
And myself, Trustee Stafford, aye. At this time, the roll, item 4.1 was 4 in favor with 1 absence. We will be going to close session after the electronic vote. So let's go and do the electronic vote first. Where's my board IC? There it is. As soon as it comes up, you can vote. There it is. Okay, item 4.1 passes 4 in favor with 1 absent. We are now in closed session at 4:04 p.m. We are now at item 5.1. We're going to reconvene in public session. Please stand for the, no, help. 1 second. Welcome to the special board meeting of July 14, 2020. The meeting is reconvening at 5:44 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United States of
and
America,
to the republic
and to
for
the
which it
republic
stands,
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty and
with
justice
liberty
for
and
all.
justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll now go to item 6.1. Let me move up to that item. Invitation to address the Board of Trustees on non-agendized items. Are there any public comments on non-agendized items?
We do have some comments this evening. Mr. Stafford and Mr. Williams is going to read them into record for us.
Okay.
It's all you, Joe.
Anna, are these all for the non-agendized item? Are we in the right place on that? Okay.
So non-agendized items, yes. But
Alright.
Mr. Stafford, can you please read the that public comment?
Card.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, speaker statement. Yes,
Yeah.
you did send that to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is the speaker statement. Individual speakers should be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask the additional person speak only if they have something new to add. We've decided to allow 20 minutes for this segment. All other comments will be read into the minutes. We do allow it to go a little bit over, so take it away, Mr. Williams.
Okay, President Stafford and board. It looks like I can estimate that it should be close to 20 minutes. There might be one that goes a little longer than the 3 minutes, but I think we'll get it in.
Okay.
So the first comment is from Amy Fran, and she writes, to the Perris Union High School District, as a parent, we are sent surveys that questioned which route we would best be for our specific child. The options were traditional school or distance learning. I chose traditional school for my daughter. Clearly, it is understood that every child is different and learns in different format. So why were we given the option only to be told it was decided unanimously for us and that all children would be distance learning? I don't worry about my daughter academically. She does well with learning. However, we know our daughter's mental health is something that we to be concerned about due to her having an extensive brain surgery 1.5 years ago. She was out of school for a while and we homeschooled her. She did very well. However, her mental health suffered as a result from being home and not interacting with her peers. We spoke with her neurosurgeon and he 100% agreed that she needs to have the socialization to keep her mentally stable. So he released her to return to school a month sooner due to the well-being of her mental health. Of course, my daughter's situation is different than most, but it's just one example to show that we have to understand that every child is different and have different home life scenarios. Some may excel at distance learning and some may fail. Some may not have the support at home or be required to babysit their younger siblings due to parents working. And some may just need to be in school because it's a safe place for them to be. It is important for each parent to be given an option for their own children. The teacher should also be given the choice for their specific situation. At this point, we need to be concerned for our children's mental health as much as we are for their physical health. I am asking that our children are given options that would better fit what they need in order to ensure the best possible scenario for their education and futures. The next comment is from Tanya Capuano, and she wrote, if online learning is in place, will the prerequisites for graduation be altered? How can a student be expected to get their units for PE or art classes, the extracurricular classes that are not necessarily as important as English, math, science, and history? Those should be the subject most invested in the Create Learning arena that gets them moving forward towards the next years in high school or college-bound courses. How is this online course instruction going to work in regards to units needed for graduation. The next comment is from Sean Zudenich, parent, and he wrote, "Good evening. The 2021 school year will be our 7th year in this school district as a parent of students. Watching the July 8th special board meeting was painful to say the least. From our living room, it appeared the board was blindsided by the fact that surveys were sent to parents asking which learning model they wanted for the 2020-21 school year. They also appeared surprised that information was released that we were returning to regular school for the 2020-21 school year. Is someone being held accountable for that? With 4 weeks until the school year is supposed to start, we are just now developing a return plan. Please tell me that is not the case. Superintendent Bennett indicated that the grading systems for the 2020-21 school year will return to normal, but then indicated that students will only get live instruction 2 to 3 days a week. It seems unreasonable that your grading expectation is rated on 5 days of in-person instruction if the students are not receiving 5 days of live instruction. How can you promise to ensure high quality instruction and rigorous learning experiences with 2 to 3 days a week instruction? Last year, distance learning shouldn't have been titled that. There were teachers who provided no lessons or material for their students to learn from. I want to know how a student who was not provided their education last semester, but passed because this is all started, they had a passing grade, is going to the next level in math, is expected to pass without prior education, but also less lesson time with their teachers. As a parent, it is our job to support our children's education, not to be their teachers. Parents, students, and teachers are all aware of the pandemic as uncharted territory for everyone. Distance learning allows everyone to stay in the safety of their own homes, but if teachers are paid to teach 5 days a week, then they should teach 5 days a week. I would like to thank Mr. Rao for speaking to ensure that IEP students receive the state mandated assistance. As a parent of a student with an IEP, I look forward to seeing what it will look like. It should be a surprise to no one that IEP contracts were not met for the 2019-20 school year. It is our hope that the school board sees the sense of urgency to get these learning plans off the ground and have some kind of backup plan in the effort to minimize the loss of education for our students. The next comment is from Shira Smith, parent and community member. Good afternoon, members of the school board, Superintendent Bennett, and others. I am sending to you today my concerns and comments regarding the most recent decision by the Perris Union High School Board on Wednesday, July 8th. Your decision to only offer distance learning in our district for the upcoming school year. First, I would like to start off that I believe the board meeting had been publicized in such a way that more parents were aware that the meeting was taking place. The public comments would have had more parents than teachers voicing their opinions and concern for the 2020-21 school year. I have spent many hours researching the pros and cons of distance learning and traditional school for this upcoming year when it comes to our children and our future. According to research conducted at Stanford University, they have found the following to be true. Children rarely transmit the virus to adults. This has been proven by contact tracing. Data indicates that children are far more at risk for influenza than COVID-19. Therefore, why don't we close our schools every year when we have an influenza outbreak within our schools? If COVID-19 sets the new standard for health safety, the country will need to close its schools each year from November to April to guard against influenza. While we focus on exceptional rarities, learning is in free fall. The situation is going to become what it has often been called the summer slide in student achievement, but on a larger scale. Low-income students suffer from the most from this decision. Many lack Wi-Fi and the mentors at home to guide them. Studies show that elementary students may have lost 30% of their reading skills during this time. Closure of schools will endanger the health of our children. Schools are there in place, and many learn that they need glasses or that they're seriously ill. They are guided by the school nurse on what actions to take. Children are being denied opportunities for social and emotional development that come into play, exercise, sports, and socialization. Reports already indicate that suicide rates among young are on the increase. More certain is the loss of human capital that lasts a lifetime. Closing schools this past spring translates into 3% or more cut in lifetime earnings for those whose education is being sidelined. With our students not being in school in front of an educator, so many child abuse cases will be missed and have been missed during the past spring. Many students receive their only nutritional meals at schools. What about the adults? The teachers, guidance counselors, bus drivers, and kitchen staff. No one wants to endanger the health of educators, but fortunately, risks to adults in schools are much less than those encountered in grocery stores, pharmacies, and other essential businesses who continue to work during this time. No less important, COVID-19 mainly targets the elderly with those underlying conditions. For people under 60, the fatality rate are so low that they are less than equal to the associated with the flu. However, teaching is a young person's occupation. Teachers' median age is 41. More than 80% are under the age of 55. These teachers are high risk, could offer the more distance learning to those parents who wish to have that kind of environment for their child, while the other teachers can offer in-class teaching to those who would like to choose this way of learning. Never have schools subjected children to such an unhealthy, uncomfortable, and anti-educational environment, so science cannot precisely define them to the total harm it will cause. But science does tell us that risks from COVID-19 are too minimal to sacrifice the educational, social, emotional, and physical well-being, to say nothing of their very health of young people. According to reports, sending children back to school in other countries did not send a surge of new cases of COVID-19 into the population. I am asking you, the trustees of the school board of the Perris Union High School District, to take another look at your decision. Take the time to look how decisions will affect our students in the district. Give parents the chance to express their feelings and opinions. Let us look at districts in neighboring cities to see what decisions they are making and how they've arrived at their decision. The Menifee School District put together a task force to explore all the options of returning to school. And today, these committees, made up of administrators, teachers, parents, and stakeholders, will be presenting their findings and suggestions. Our neighboring district, Temecula and Murrieta, are still looking and deciding and are leaning towards offering 3 options, one being traditional learning in class. Our children deserve the opportunity to return to school next month if their parents deem it safe to do so. The district has sent out many surveys to the stakeholders asking what we want to see when returning to school in August. The survey came back with 65% of them wanting to send their child back to traditional learning, and yet the decision was made by the board to only offer distance learning. Why can't 2 models of learning be offered to our children? Have the teachers in all our schools been polled to see how many would like to return to traditional learning in the class? Maybe there are enough of them who would classify as essential workers and they would report back to the classroom in August. Please take into consideration all my facts, thoughts, and opinions that are shared by many parents in our community, and take another look at the decision that was made. In closing, I will leave you these thoughts. You as a school board had the very important decision to make, and without taking into consideration the opinions of all stakeholders, you made the decision to ignore the 2 surveys that were sent to parents. I prayed that you would choose wisely when the final decision was made for your students, our students, you know, the ones we always preach, no child left behind. By not giving our children and parents the option to send our kids back to school next month, you have failed us. You have failed us as an educational institution. You will have failed us as a support system, and you will have failed our community. All I ask is that you take a moment to look forward to the child who has an abusive dad at home and 6 hours at school that are saving grace. A child who struggles with depression has been sitting in her room for the past 4 months, spiraling, losing all will to go on. But the few smiles she got from passing people in the hall were a little bit of positivity she needed to keep going. Look towards the special needs students whose parents need to return to work and cannot afford to have an in-house caretaker, and school was all they had. Even look towards the kids who hate school, who aren't going to graduate unless they have a teacher and a friend, a mentor, a coach, keeping them accountable. And school is the place where all those people are for them when their parents are not. The stories could go on forever, but they are just a few people that exist in our school community. From personal experience, I can tell you that not everyone is blessed with the ability to have a meal every night, but school breakfast and lunch gives them that nourishment when their own parents cannot. Not everyone is blessed to have a 2-parent household with a stay-at-home mom to care for them all day while their father works. Not everyone has a positive home environment that promotes personal and educational growth. Some even discourage it. So in this moment, put yourselves in the shoes of the silent sufferers. Put yourself in the shoes of those not lucky enough to be blessed with a perfect home life. Because I promise you, while you can easily attribute the success of students to yourselves, teachers, and administrators of the district, the demise of the students will be on your mind in days, weeks, and months to come. The next comment is from Vicky Estes, and she wrote, "Are you putting the plan together to immediately switch to in-class education when the COVID-19 cases/deaths are back to a flattened curve?" The next comment is from Misty Pattison Stevenson. She wrote, "Please do not consider opening campuses to students until COVID-19 cases are significantly reduced in Riverside County and sufficient measures to ensure student safety can be implemented. The healthy and safety of our entire community is at stake. The next comment is from Jeanette Shippick. COVID-19 death rates are down and suicide rates are up. Give parents the freedom of choice to send their kids back to traditional school. The next comment is from Vicki Mueller, and she wrote, Dear Board of Trustees and Cabinet, thank you for your brave decision to start the school year via distance learning. My hope, however, is that we are careful and we front load students and parents with the expectations during teacher PD days. I am writing this as I travel up Highway 95 using my hotspot on my phone. It is possible to do distance learning, but it will take planning. This can work, but it'll be a community effort. I do believe that it is what's best for students, parents, and PUHSD employees. Thank you again. And that is the last of the written comments, and there were no voicemail comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. We're going to move on now to item 7.1, study session. The Board of Trustees will conduct a study session regarding the following categories as part of the 2020-21 reopening plans: English learners, special education, cleaning/disinfecting, and safety will be the topics today. And with that, I can we'll go to Mr. Bennett to direct this.
Yeah, we have three different presentations that are going to happen during this time. I'm going to turn over to Mr. Newman to introduce the first two, and then we'll go on to the third one after that. So, Mr. Newman.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, good evening, President Stafford and the board. Last week, there was a lot of conversation and questions in regards to, as we make this transition, how are we going to effectively support our students who are receiving special education services, as well as our English learner students, which was an appropriate conversation that needs to be had on the front end this time around and not on the back end, so that we can be a lot more proactive in this work. And so I want to thank the board for requesting just this presentation today. And so we have Emil Al-Zubaydi, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. He's here with us, and he's going to be walking us through our current plans in regards to how we're going to get our students who are receiving special ed services set up. And of course, there's going to be additional plans that are coming. We also have our the Director of Learning Support, Charles Tippy. He's here with us as well. And then he'll also be going over our supports for English learners as well. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Emil, and then he'll get us started.
And Emil's Director of Special Ed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Newman. President Stafford, board members, Mr. Grant, Cabinet, thank you so much for this time. I'm going to go ahead and move into the presentation mode. So I'm going to share my screen if that's okay with everyone.
It's fine.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in, and I can't see you, but at any point, if you have any questions, please stop me, or we can wait till the end for questions as well. I'll leave it to your discretion. We're going to plan on schedule and holding IEP meetings, not to alter the district's free appropriate public education, but to address how the IEP team will support our students through distance learning, ensuring parental participation in the discussion about individual distance learning programs. Our goal is to hold IEP meetings by September of 2020. There was some discussion in regards to accommodations and modifications. They will be discussed by the IEP team in determining how these supports will be addressed and provided through distance learning. As a reminder, accommodations allow a student to complete the same assignment or test as other students, but with a change in the timing, formatting, setting, scheduling, response, and/or presentation. Accommodations do not alter in any significant way what the test or assignment measures. For example, completing odd or even problems of a given assignment. Modifications are an adjustment to an assignment or a test that changes the standard or what the test or assignment is supposed to measure. For example, move writing a response to a question or a question, our student would select a response from a field of multiple choice options. Again, this is all determined by the IEP team.
Hey, Emil, hold up 1 second.
Yes,
If
sir.
you can go back to the the first slide for just a brief second,
Okay.
and kind of walk the board through just the process of the importance of, I'm sorry, the second slide. And maybe you can inform the board just the importance of collaborating with parents in this process and including them in the decision-making process so that they can kind of see kind of the full picture of not just having the IEP, but that collaboration process that's really important.
And I do have one quick question before you on IEPs. Are these going to be in-person IEPs, not virtual IEPs, correct?
They will be virtual IEPs.
Virtual IEPs. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
They will all be through virtual. Thank you very much, Dr. Newman. Absolutely. So we want to make sure that we take the time to sit with our parents virtually. It'll be a live virtual IEP meeting. It'll be the parent. It'll be the IEP team. So that would include the general education teacher, the case carrier, the administrator, the other relevant members of that team, in a sense, who's providing those services, so that we can have an honest conversation, discussion in regards to what the needs are of the student and how we're going to augment those needs or how we're going to address those needs for our students through distance learning. And I was going to actually get into more of that as we get through some of these slides. Are there any specific questions about that component?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
I don't know if parents of students who require IEPs all have access to Chromebooks. I know we do give them to the students, but would it be possible that parents or guardians of special needs students would also be provided with a Chromebook so that at least they would be able to participate virtually with the IEP meetings in the case maybe the one that their child was given was not working for them?
Dr. Freeman, I can assure you that every one of our students has access to a Chromebook. And if there's any concerns with those Chromebooks, I know that Mr. Williams and I have talked about those concerns when they come up, and we address those almost immediately.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Emil,
Yes, sir.
as you go through the presentation, a lot of these acronyms, if you're a first-time watcher of this system or you don't understand what an IEP is, could you explain IEP and FAPE and all these different acronyms you're using? Because
Yes,
you'll
sir.
lose people right off the bat if you don't tell them what it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So an IEP stands for an individualized education plan. A student would qualify for an IEP based on assessments. Those assessments would then determine the student's present levels of performance. Those present levels of performance would develop goals. Goals then would drive the services, and the services would drive what's called a free appropriate public education, or otherwise known as FAPE. Thank you, Mr. Stafford. I appreciate you slowing me down that way.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Take your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, I'm going to keep moving here. Any questions about accommodations and modifications from that standpoint of what we shared earlier? And remember, accommodations and modifications may look different for a student. It's all based on the unique individualized needs of that student.
I believe Dr. Rao might have had a question.
Thank you. You're up.
You froze again, Dr. Rouse.
Yeah. See if you can unfreeze.
Would you like me to keep going? And then when Dr. Rao comes back, we can address the question?
Yeah. Well, let's give him one more second here.
No problem.
Okay, he seems like
Bye.
we didn't hear a word you said, and your volume is garbled. So if you
Okay.
can make some adjustments, we waited for you.
What about now, Trustee Stafford?
Yes.
There might be situations, Emil, that the IEP calls for specific services that they might not be appropriate for an online model. Are we going to give the opportunity with all the safety measures to come, the student, and potentially the parent or just the student, bring the student to the school to provide those services? I'm not talking about instruction in person, but services in person. Is that something that we have considered if that is not possible to provide it online?
Dr. Rao, that's a great question. I know that based on the services that we have in play, those services for the majority can all be done through the distance learning. Of course, there's going to be limitations to that piece. At this point, because of the fact that we've all agreed to move into a distance learning platform, we would honor that piece until we come back traditionally, and then we would provide that support and service. If for whatever reason we can't provide that support and service, we will definitely discuss how we'll conduct those accommodations, augmentations for the student until we return back, and then we can discuss how we're going to remediate those interventions when we do come back traditionally.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Absolutely. All right, and that brings us to the next point, Dr. Rao, thank you. Our related service professionals will provide virtual services as determined by the IEP team. They will include, but not limited to, our speech and language pathologists, our occupational therapists, our education-related mental health providers, our physical therapists, and adaptive physical education specialists, all to the extent possible, as we had pointed out. If a student is unable to perform a function or activity safely in the home setting, without the supervision of trained therapists, various accommodations and augmentations will be suggested by the professional to maintain student safety and support the needs of the student. And as I pointed out earlier, Dr. Arao, we would definitely take a look at those support services that we may need to come back and revisit to remediate any of those concerns. Teachers will utilize electronic platforms when available in assigning work so that students will be able to submit work electronically, minimizing lapse time from scanning constraints. This will allow staff to monitor student progress, provide additional lessons if necessary, and maintain data on student progress and benefit, as well as adjust lessons as applicable to the needs of our students. We've got programs like Read 180, System 44, Play-Doh type functions, as well as Math Excel as some examples, in a sense, that we can utilize and tap into to minimize the need for the scanning constraints that we've been facing when we were out from March to June. We're going to focus on a center-based modality that incorporates through a virtual platform. This will entail teachers and paraeducators providing virtual direct instruction and support. I know that's a big concern for parents, so I want to iterate this again. We're going to provide virtual direct instruction and support in addition to other means of communication, either telephonically, by email, and virtual. Staff will check in with students on an ongoing basis to address educational need and benefit. Center-based instruction incorporates grouping of students based on either educational need, subject matter, or grade level instruction. Teachers will be able to provide distance learning instruction, and paraeducators will follow up with students to address educational needs and benefit based on the recommendations made by the IEP team. We're going to focus on social emotional supports as well. We're bringing on board 10 to 12 mental health interns. In fact, we just interviewed another intern this morning, so we're about, I believe, 13 interns. And they range from marriage and family therapy to social work programs. We're going to support social emotional needs of all of our students. We've established, and here are the following indicators that we're looking at. We're looking at global concerns, anxiety that is transferred into fear. We've got students that are really anxious, depression that looks like irritability and anger and resentment, trauma being overwhelmed in our avoidance concerns. And so these are the indicators that we want to break down. Student, staff, and family members report concerns of student reporting wanting to harm themselves or others with intent, plans, and means. After follow-up support from the 5150 hospitalization. History of suicidal or homicidal behavior reporting current suicidal or homicidal engagement. Lack of resiliency, evidenced by discipline entries, health tech visits, or poor attendance. Excessive and or pattern of absenteeism. Pattern of discipline based on disciplinary entries. And pattern of lack of credit achievement and or failing grades.
Emil?
Yes, sir.
Quick. Could you explain to the board where we're getting these interns from? How that's working for us?
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Absolutely. We have contract with California Baptist University. We've got a contract with Cal State San Marcos. We're also taking a look at other universities that we're developing contracts for. And we're going to hold a 3-level layer of supervision with our interns, including individual supervision, group supervision for more global issues, and more group supervision in regards to the notion of case management, case review. So that way we're layering that little supervision to make sure that we're supporting our interns, who in turn will support our students. So that way we get truly a level of what we consider wraparound support for all of our students from that standpoint. And I know this is a presentation for our special education students, but I want to assure all of our parents that this level of support is for all students. As a marriage and family therapist and a school psychologist, I'll be conducting a lot of the supervision myself with our interns, and together we'll be developing different levels of curriculum, including grief and loss, empowerment, social skills, self-advocacy, motivation, and anger management. And to be clear, our parents, our counselors, our teachers, and administrators will be able to inform counselors of the concerns, and the counselors will be able to refer. We developed a referral process. It's actually here. I'll click on that link later. Refer students to small virtual groups, and when needed, individual support, including linkage, family support, and we're going to make sure that we get parent consent in supporting our students and families. The big issue that we're also targeting for next steps is assessments. We'll be looking into via virtual platforms, taking into consideration reliability, validity, and efficacy of standardized assessments to ensure the integrity of the assessments are upheld and state and federal mandates are addressed. And I'm going to actually have Charles Tippy jump in for this part, and then we'll take any additional questions.
So Emil, real quick on the assessments, just to make sure
Yes.
we're kind of clear with the board in regards to this is kind of a big space that we're working on right now that we have to get addressed. That this is our big next step. As we say next step, this is an area that we're focusing on that's super important in terms of a gap in our program right now that we need to fill before the year starts.
Absolutely. Every related service provider will be looking into reviewing all the manuals that we're utilizing for our standardized measures, as well as looking into with the test makers if there's any assessments that we can use virtually to conduct these assessments. Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Newman.
So before we go on, if we might want to just check with President Stafford to see if there's any questions from any of the board members in regards to special education services before we transition to Charles Tippy.
Absolutely.
Rao has the hand up, Mr. Newman.
Okay, it's not Dr. Rao.
Thank you, Dr. Newman. I just want to ask, how are we going to communicate this to the parents and the students about, I'm talking specifically about the social emotional support opportunities that we have. This is a really big concern, right? We are trying to address the whole spectrum from the curricular perspective, instructional, and also the social emotional, not only for special ed students, but also for all the students and parents. How are we going to ensure that everybody knows about this? Because, for example, on this board meeting, Mr. Williams, how many people do we have participating? Like 300? I don't know how many community members are online and are able to see this presentation.
So currently there's 62 watching it live. Last week we were up to almost 300, and we don't get the numbers on how many people just watch the recording, but it was reported that were many. So currently 62 live.
Dr. Rao, I can assure you that Mr. Bruff and I will be focusing on developing a campaign, working with our colleagues and ensuring that we're utilizing our website, our telephonic abilities, and then we're going to make sure we're going to talk to our counselors for the outreach piece, our administrators, our teachers. One of the goals that we're focusing on is making sure that we touch all of our teachers and letting them know that this referral process is available. So that way, if they have any concerns, and if I can just click on this really quick so I can show you. Hopefully this is what we get. Oh, it's not as clear. I'm hoping you can see this. Is that clear?
Yes, we are able to see it.
Wonderful. So as you can see here, we've got the school site, current support. We're looking at student assets, reason for consideration for counseling, any previous interventions. If at any point if our teachers are feeling like they don't have this information, all we're looking for is you can fill out as much as you can so that we can follow up at that point in providing that support.
Excellent, thank you. I know that our teachers do a wonderful job making the recommendations to counselors right through the classes, but This is the new model, and I'm sure they are going to be looking for signs, trying to identify the opportunities to provide those services. But I would like the whole community to know we have more than 10,000 students that they know about these resources and doing it.
Dr. Rao, did I lose you, or are you still there?
He froze up. He froze up a little bit.
Tony, you're muted.
in us. Yeah.
Mr. Stafford, you're muted.
Okay. My,
Okay. I don't know
Dr.
if we can hear you.
We'll take him.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stafford. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, just wanted to make sure that our parents and our students, that they know about that. And if we can provide that information also on this language that they speak at home. Most of our students, we have a high percent of students who speak Spanish and parents who speak Spanish only. So if we can provide that information also.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Dr. Rao, if I can add in, we also created over the past few months, we created a distance learning website, kind of like a hub for parents to go to and find out information. That website was also translated in Spanish as well as in English. And so we had that conversation today. Diane and her team, they're working on updating all the information that we're doing for distance learning and making sure that information is in that location for parents to go and locate.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Newman. And thank you, Amin.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions?
My question was, can you go a slide back?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this the indicators, the global concerns, the anxiety,
Yes.
and things like that. My concern is with parents having to become the teachers or monitor things that they might not have the skills to do.
Right.
So if something just isn't working and you're not getting the communication, you have that referral form that they can fill out, right? And the assessor would fill that out and those would fill those needs, right? Keeping it more basic, because is that how they're going to get the help?
So it's if at any point a parent, and remember, our parents are our support, right? I don't want our parents to feel like they're teachers. Our parents are that support, right? As if they're doing the homework with their students, they may be following up on a lesson that a teacher provided, things of that nature. When we're looking at from that dynamic, these global concerns are just that. These are the bigger concerns that parents may not know what's going on, but something's amiss. And it's a phone call to a teacher, it's an email to a teacher, it's a phone call to a counselor. It's an email to a counselor, and that will trigger the process to start in terms of us getting on board to support that student.
Okay, that's what they need to understand, that the help is there, but someone has to initiate that effort, make that phone call.
Well, and if our teachers see anything from a virtual standpoint, it's a matter of at that point following up with our counselor then will let our interns know, and then we will jump right on it.
Because when parents are parents, they're coming home from work, they have that anxiety. Now I have to sit with the children, and a lot of times it's maybe the mother or the kids will work together, but it creates a lot of anxiety, especially for the child, because if he can't perform
right
when he's trying to learn, he's not always expected to get it right. It's a tough position to be in.
Well, the research tells us very clearly when our students are dealing with anxiety, learning is at its most minimal ability at that point. And so if we can address the anxiety, obviously the learning and the ability to feel confident at that point gets that much more powerful for that student. That's why one of the things that we want to hone in on as an area is empowerment. We want to empower our students. And if they're feeling so anxious and fearful, we've got to help our students find that sense of empowerment, so that way they can move past that fear and learn how to advocate and learn to get that help.
Okay, that explains it very good for the, yes, okay. Okay, I'm sorry, Dr. Freeman has a question for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford. I am very pleased with this presentation. I know that people have been very concerned and continue to be concerned about how everything is going to work this year.
Right.
As important as this is, people have been assuming incorrectly that they weren't going to be treated properly or dealt with properly. There is one unique situation that might account for why we only had 62 watching this live. In one of those unique circumstances, the Menifee Union School District also scheduled their meeting for 4 o'clock today. So you have two school districts competing for the same time for the families for both groups. If there's not already been planned for, I have two requests. One, to make sure that this presentation and any of the others that would be of particular interest to the parents be posted on the website. And secondly, we know that Mr. Doug Spoon, the editor of Menifee 24/7, is going to be interviewing administrators, starting with Mr. Bennett. And I would very much like to have you included in that to go over this again so that the parents can be reassured who may not have had the opportunity to witness this today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Freeman. Dr. Rao.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on the comment from Dr. Freeman. I completely agree with him. And I would like to recommend to look into our feeder district. So in the future, to see if we are not going to be having the meetings at the same time, because our parents and our community are interested. This is important information for them. They want to participate. And it would be nice to look into that. And if there is some conflict, it's at the same time. If we cannot move the time, maybe the day, I don't think that is going to make a big difference for us or even for them, for the day.
Okay. We're still having a problem with Dr. Rao's communication, so.
Thank you so much for the positive feedback. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Dr. Rao?
Yes, Mr. Stafford.
We're really having a problem with your communication. You're freezing up. Your screen keeps freezing. In fact, when you were speaking the last time, it froze on you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just so you're aware of that, if there's anything you could do.
Okay, yes, it's the internet service that we have. And even though we just upgraded it, we continue to have problems. But anyway, what I was recommending is to have a communication with our feeder districts in order to ensure that there is no conflict on the meetings. So all of our stakeholders, our community members, they have the opportunity. If we can change it for the next day or maybe the other district, let's work together in collaboration to ensure that all of our stakeholders, they have the opportunity to be and participate in our meetings. Thank you.
We'll make sure we take care of that for future meetings.
Okay, Emil, we can pick it back up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stafford. Here we go. Mr. Tippy.
Sure. Good evening, President Stafford, honorable members of the board, Superintendent Bennett, district cabinet members, and all of our community. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share information with you tonight on how we're supporting our English learners in the distance learning environment. I wanted to start off with just some updates from the California Department of Education and some of their updates and some of the challenges that we have ahead of us. Starting off with our assessments, we annually administer the English Learner Proficiency Assessment for California, also known as the LPAC. These are kind of divvied up into two different assessments. The first one is the initial assessment that is used to quickly identify and screen students that are new to the state and determine if they are indeed in need of English language development services. So with the schools being closed in terms of students not being on campus physically, we typically do that within 20 days of enrollment. Right now with the current situation, those assessments will have to be done when it's safe for students to come back on campus. Unfortunately, we do have some great formative assessments that our teachers use, and we can identify the services that students need. Also, the summative assessment is administered to all English learners once a year in the springtime. Unfortunately, our district, just like many other districts, was right in the middle of the assessments when the closures happened. So the majority of our EL students were not able to finish their assessments. We use the LPAC as summative assessment to assist with placement in terms of what services students receive for the subsequent year. And then it's also used to monitor progress throughout the years. The Department of Education will allow districts the opportunity, once again, once it's safe for students to be on campus, to continue testing from the 1920 school year. So once that opportunity is available, then we would be able to assess students. The reason I'm bringing that up right now, the LPAC is one of the 4 requirements that is needed to determine if we reclassify a student from an English learner into what's called a reclassified fluent English proficient student, meaning basically that they no longer require ELD services. That is a requirement in terms of reclassification. Fortunately, we can still provide services for students based on their needs using all those other assessments that we have available. We are still required to provide high quality designated ELD, which is a set time within the school day where students receive instruction strictly on the California English Language Development Standards. And we also are required to provide integrated ELD, which is basically the content teachers, English, science, social studies teachers are teaching their content standards, but they're also using the ELD standards to support our English learners. And that definitely has posed some challenges in a new environment, but we have some great people that working really hard to support our teachers and our students. And that kind of transitions me into the next slide. So Emil, good deal. Wanted to highlight just all of the different teachers, administrators, and counseling departments that are working hard to support our EL students. Starting off with our English Learner Leadership Task Force. So this is a group that's been, we've been working together for about the last 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. And we have administrators, counselors, classroom teachers, instructional coaches, and we meet almost monthly during the school year and talk about different requirements from the federal program monitoring department, legal requirements for services for our EL students. We talk about best practices on in the classroom, how we can support our students. Allows counselors from the different sites to brainstorm ideas and talk about different strategies. And when this significant change came in March, it was a really good opportunity for, we can continue meeting virtually, and we're able to have those conversations and share resources. And we'll still continue working virtually to support our teachers and our students. We have a full-time Title III English learner teacher on special assignment, Ms. Norma Carrillo. When the closures happened, she did a great job of facilitating online collaborations with our teachers and the counselors. They work to look at student achievement data for placement purposes. We have literacy coaches, which are teachers who are released from the classroom. They don't have actual students in front of them. And they work to provide professional development for our teachers and EL leads, teachers that are released part-time throughout the school day who serve essentially in the same role. And they meet in the English Learner Leadership Task Force. We provide training for them, and then they in turn provide training for the teachers. There's also a dedicated English learner counselor at each school site, and they've done an outstanding job this whole time being the liaison between the teachers and the students and the parents. I know they were spending tons of time at home with kids running around in the background answering questions that students had, helping them access the resources. And they're continuing to work to support our English learners. With the shift to online instruction, there's just a ton of online platforms that are amazing tools for our students, but they require intensive training for both the teachers and the students. Things like Flipgrid, that allows our EL students the opportunity to practice their listening and speaking skills on the standards. And then in turn, the teachers are able to have authentic assessments. So our instructional technology TOSAs have done a great job supporting us in this endeavor, and we know they'll continue to do so. We have reduced class sizes for our designated ELD program. And the whole purpose of this is it allows us, the teacher, to do the required monitoring of student performance and also provide interventions. And, you know, with significant challenges, we see teachers rising up to do great things. So I'm going to share just a little story from a teacher from Perris High School, Mr. Drew Morgan, who teaches our newcomer students. And he got the phone out and called every single one of his students to not only make sure they were able to log into the different online programs, access the curriculum, help them out with their math classes, you know, getting into those programs, but also check in with them and just see how they're doing, you know, because it was a challenge for the kids in other aspects as well. So we can go to the next one, Emil. And then just more of the online support. So we have our designated EL online programs. They all have an online component, which once again requires training and support. You know, some of the programs are better than others. The Signage Edge program, we have English 3D. Newsella is a program that works to support students with reading comprehension. And we know over the years, our students, our EL students have, that's been the area that they struggled the most with based on their LPAC data, is reading comprehension. Rosetta Stone is an online language acquisition program that's used for our newcomer students. So they've had access for that for a while, and they're using it in the distance learning setting as well. Our literacy coaches and our EL leads are enthusiastically signed up for training to specifically support students and ELs in distance learning. So they're going to be attending the Corwin online learning playbook training that's coming up next week. We also have several that are participating in the Leading Edge certification, and we'll be attending the Menifee Google Summit that's coming up next week as well. And just doing everything we can to keep up to date with the best strategies to support our students. I've been in contact with Mr. Williams, and one of the challenges that we found, we're so fortunate that all of our students have had Chromebooks for years, and they're affluent in the use of those Chromebooks, and teachers are already doing amazing things in the classroom. But some of our students do have challenges with internet access. And one of the things we're looking at doing is looking at the state has defined criteria for newcomer and migrant students, and using some of that special funding to help support the students with the internet access. We go to the next one, Emil. And then some of the next steps for as we open the school year, I think we've gotten a lot better. We've learned so much, and we're going to continue to do so. One of the things that Dr. Newman guided us to work on was online standards-based diagnostic assessments. We know that, you know, the last few months of school was challenging, and we wanted to be able to quickly identify what standards students are struggling with individually, and then collectively as a whole, so that the teachers can administer those diagnostic assessments, quickly identify what standards the individual student and the group is struggling with, and then focus instruction on those particular standards. So they'll administer the assessments, have immediate access to the data, and then they'll continue working in virtual PLCs so that they can identify best practice solutions for that. We're also participating in the different RCOE task force. So a lot of our teachers, our leads and our literacy coaches have been working with Molly McCabe from RCOE on the ELA, ELD task force for quite some time now. Since the school closures, those have shifted to supporting students in the digital online learning, and they've been a great resource. We also have our coaches participating in the RCOE Remote Learning Guidance Task Force. They're working on providing professional development on universal design for learning in digital environments. So key points there is access for all, having flexible approaches that meet the needs of all students. And in order to do that, we're able to identify and remove barriers. And with this situation, we're adapting, and there's so many new barriers and different things that it's been so great to have collaboration and time to work together for some of these. So, and that was kind of an overall summary of what we're working on in the EL program, and be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Okay, do we have any questions that I
would just like to thank him for an excellent presentation. Again, it really helps to clarify what is going to be done under the virtual distance learning for these people who have special requirements. And I am very pleased. I know it's a new frontier, but I think we're doing a good job in getting there. Thank you.
Dr. Rao?
Yeah, I just have one question. I'm wondering, how are we going to provide the primary support to our ELs 1s and 2s? I know that is not the official level, emergent, and what are the new terminology, Mr. Pitti?
Our newcomer students.
Yeah, for the newcomers, but it's emergent, and well, anyway, the equivalent for ELD1 and ELD2. During the regular classrooms, when it's the traditional model, we have sometimes instructional aides that they are bilingual and they help them, right? Because they don't speak any English at all. Some students also, classmates, they can help them. How are we going to address that issue if the teacher, I'm a history teacher and I don't speak Spanish? How am I going to support the newcomers?
So that's been one of the challenges that we've seen over the last few years in the in-person instructional model as well. One of the things that the team developed a few years ago is we created a newcomer guidance course. So the students are in their designated ELD course, and then they also have one single period, which is a kind of a guidance course designed for newcomer students. Within that, they had support from our AVID tutors. They did kind of a modified tutorial process with the students to help them with all of their content areas, so math, science, and so forth. We still have that on the books. It is a little bit challenging in the digital learning environment, but that's one of the things we want to work on is how can we continue that program with our AVID tutors and the EL leads, the teacher leads, and the literacy coaches. That's been a big focus for them, is helping those newcomer students in that situation.
Okay, so summarizing, I was not able to hear some things that you said, but it seems that we are going to have the extra support, and you mentioned AVID tutors also are going to be assigned to the online classes with the teacher.
Yes.
They are participating. Okay, so they are going to be doing kind of a breakout session with online breakout session with the ELs. You know, in the classroom you have those small groups when you do support to the group. Is that what we are envisioning? That what is going to happen?
Yes, and I've seen some teachers do some really I don't want to use the word cool, but some really innovative strategies where they do those breakout sessions and focus on in small groups with the students.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to make sure that we are providing the services and they don't even fall behind and they get the access to the education. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we could keep going.
Thank you, Emil. Thank you, Charles. Great job on
Thank you,
Next.
gentlemen.
Next, I'm going to have Candace do a lead in for the group that's going to talk about safety and cleaning and sanitation. So I'll turn over to Candace right now.
Okay, and I'm getting the presentation up. Let me make sure that happens seamlessly here. Nope, that did not seem to work. Okay. Alrighty. Well, tonight our team wanted to focus on cleaning, disinfecting, and some safety measures. Now, the focus for tonight is really centering around our essential employees that have been working since March, continuing to work during the summer. Certainly, the plans and the planning that we have in place will be a lot more robust when we move from distance learning into hybrid and then ultimately the traditional model when that happens. But we thought it would be a good idea to spend just a little bit of time tonight talking about primarily cleaning and disinfecting, which Art Fritz, who's our Director of Maintenance and Operations, will go over. And then we just wanted to spend a little bit of time and have Judy Miller, who's our Director of Risk Management and Environmental Safety, and then Hector Gonzalez, our Director of Facility Services, talk about a couple of other areas that we're focusing on to keep our essential employees safe. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Art.
Good evening, Mr. Stafford, trustees, Mr. Grant, and cabinet. Can you guys hear me?
You're good.
Okay, all right, cool. I mean, okay. I want to do to differentiate between what cleaning and disinfecting is. So when we say that we are cleaning, it is defined as removing dirt, marks, stains from a surface. Cleaning also reduces the number of germs and impurities on surfaces, but it does not disinfect. It does not kill the virus. Disinfecting is defined as cleaning with a chemical in order to destroy a bacteria, a virus, or a fungus. This is accomplished by regular cleaning procedures and application of Vindicator. It's a Hilliard disinfectant that we use with the proper dwell time apply, and we're applying it with a cartridge mister. All PUHSD custodians are using Vindicator to daily disinfect all hard, non-porous, inanimate environmental surfaces on all high-touch surfaces. Next slide, please. Oh, can I click it?
No.
Oh.
And I was just going to say, Art said a lot of fancy words there, and he's going to spend the next couple slides explaining what a cartridge is, and he's got some videos to demonstrate that for you.
Right. So if you guys remember in the beginning, we said we wanted to get the cartridge misters to use that as an application for the Vindicator or any disinfectant that we wanted to use. If you could click on that link at the top, Candace, I didn't want to call you Miss Raines. While the video is spread coming up. Funny in this thing. The application of Vindicator can be also applied with a Hudson sprayer. Vindicator is a disinfectant that we need a 10-minute dwell time. It's also on the EPA's approved chemical list to kill the SARS-CoV-2, the novel coronavirus that causes a COVID-19. After the 10-minute dwell time, custodians will then clean the surfaces with the proper colored microfiber towel.
So Joe, maybe you can help me out here. It is playing.
Do you want to, you're going to have to go to the other tab and say, play this tab, or you can release, if you wanted to release it, and I'll just pull up the video and then you go back in. It's up to you.
I like that idea, actually. Let me release that, if you don't mind. Thanks, Joe.
Joe, it's also two of them, because we can do the next side and then we could do the Karcher and then the Victory sprayer. So it'd be
Way
2 videos back to sir.
Yeah, I think Joe knows.
I saw that.
There you go.
So hang on, sorry, everybody at home. Did you see the screen that says Karcher?
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, let it sync up at home, and then hopefully the audio will play. Oops, I gotta unmute it.
More than ever, finding a good solution to dealing with germs that students bring to school is important in education. The PS47 BP Mister allows a custodial staff to disinfect high touch point areas such as lockers and stair rails that may or may not get cleaned with conventional processes. The reason this is important is that it keeps children in the classroom and learning. Most schools derive the majority of their funding based on attendance rates. A 1% increase in attendance in a 2,000 student high school can result in upwards of $100,000 in additional funding. The PS47 Mister makes disinfecting classrooms and lunchrooms a simple task. This can be done on a regular basis and help cut down infection from diseases and germs that can be transmitted between students. The PS47 BP Mister is ideal for disinfecting locker rooms and athletic areas, which can be difficult to disinfect with conventional cleaning methods. The ISSA K-12 study found that the average water fountain had 2.7 million bacteria per square inch. This is an area where the PS47 BP Mister should be used as well.
Ms. Raines, would you like me to
I think
finish
so.
it, or do you want to jump back in there?
Yeah, can you go ahead since we've got one more video?
All right, stand by. I need to switch screens. Mr. Fritz.
All right. Next slide, please. Thank you. The next piece of equipment that we have for the custodial staff is the Victory handheld electrostatic sprayer. The difference between the electrostatic sprayer is when you on the application that it wraps around the stuff that it is. Like if I spray this desk, it'll wrap around the majority of the things on the desk. The Mister is more of a misting, or the Mister wets it more than electrostatic does. With the Victory handheld electrostatic, we use vital oxide. Vital oxide has a 5-minute dwell time. It's also on the EPA's approved list to kill the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Using vital oxide through the Victory electrostatic sprayer on high touch surfaces does not have to be wiped off if the area is already clean prior to application. We like the vital oxide because of the dwell time, its kill ratio, and that it's also that it's clear. All PUHSD custodians have been trained on wearing a proper PPE per the chemical safety data sheet when using this. Joe, if you hit the link for me, please.
Did it switch to the video for you?
Yes.
All right, we good?
Every day we come into contact with millions of pathogens that cause illnesses in spaces we expect to be clean and sanitary. Traditional methods of cleaning and sanitizing are not as effective as they should be, and often aren't given the time needed to clean properly. To improve cleaning capabilities in industries where keeping surfaces and equipment sanitary is vital to professional business, we've created the world's first handheld cordless electrostatic sprayer. Our sprayer is unlike any other electrostatic sprayer on the market. We designed our sprayer to address and solve all of the pain points experienced with traditional electrostatic sprayers. We wanted our sprayer to provide the best coverage and be the easiest to use. The other electrostatic sprayers on the market require the use of a cord for power. To eliminate the inconvenience of dragging a cord, we've outfitted the Victory Innovations electrostatic sprayer with a powerful 16.8 volt lithium-ion battery. When fully charged, this battery allows our sprayer to spray continuously for 4 hours. Not only does this battery power the sprayer, but it provides the charge for your solution, helping it to stick and wrap around the surface it's applied to. The Victory Innovation Sprayer adds a positive charge to the solution inside the tank to ensure that every particle is charged. In addition to eliminating the use of power cords and hoses and improving the way solutions are charged, our adjustable nozzle allows for a quicker and more effective application, giving the user the versatility to select the right size particle for their specific application. The Victory Innovation Sprayer makes advanced electrostatic spraying technology easily available to more industries than ever before, enabling them to use less chemicals and achieve more complete coverage in a fraction of the time it used to take. The simplicity of its design makes it easy for anyone to use and sanitize more effectively than ever before.
You back, Mr. Fritz? Unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Next slide, please. All right, the next slide talks about the high touch surfaces that require disinfecting. So we focus on the front desk, the lobby areas, the offices, workstations, door handles, doorknob, inside and out, your armchairs, your chairs, your countertops, your light switches, cabinets and your file cabinets, copiers, your printers, sinks, the faucets, handrails, restrooms, especially restrooms and stalls, food preparation areas in the kitchens, break rooms, work rooms, cafe tables, and chairs.
We're gonna turn it, oh, there you go. Got your mic on, Judy.
Okay, well, thanks, Art. President Stafford, the board, Superintendent Bennett, and Cabinet, I'm happy to spend just a couple minutes going over what we consider safety measures. And I know right now when you're looking at the slide, it's primarily we're talking about personal protective equipment, but it really started out with some basic stuff like hand washing and making sure we had hand sanitizer available for staff, and posters and things that would just remind them of some of the basic stuff, and of course the physical distancing. But when we talk about personal protective equipment, PPE is in the OSHA world is how that's considered. We were fortunate that when this whole thing started, we actually had a limited cache, but we did have surgical masks and some N95s and gloves available. So that's really kind of helped us get through this initial when we were shut down. And with limited staff on campus, we were able to provide what they need. Right now, as we all know, that surgical mask or the cloth face covering or some type of face covering or mask is actually required for everybody. So we do expect visitors, employees, and customers to be wearing one, although we do have cloth face coverings and face mask available on campus as needed or as requested. Some of the stuff that we also want to make sure we had a small cache of surgical quality masks. Those were used up. We had ordered, like all the districts in the area, or actually throughout the state, we ordered equipment and supplies. A lot of it's been back ordered and actually canceled. We're pretty happy about this last week. We were able to source another vendor who's able to fill a lot of the things that were previously back ordered. So a medical quality surgical mask and or 3-ply face mask. Face shields is another thing that we're adding that's going to be able to offer opportunities to provide another layer of protection. Hector will be talking on the next slide just a little bit about plexiglass barriers. The face shield will help provide a barrier when staff are not able to maybe the social distancing, they're working closer with people or students. And so the face shield will help provide a little extra barrier there. N95s, we do have N95s that the plan will be for health office staff in conjunction with the face shield when they're working directly with ill students, maybe special ed staff as well. Gloves are currently, we have, several categories of employees who are using gloves to prevent contamination, or when they're using chemicals like custodians and or nutrition when they're working with food. You'd have to go back because we don't, that one's going to be for there you go. Thank you, Joe. I know you want me to go fast, but I want to hopefully went as fast as I could.
That was not a slight on Judy Miller. That was a mistake, but please
Yeah,
don't take it personally.
That's an overview of what we have right now and what we're currently using. So I guess I will introduce, I think the next slide, we're going to have Hector kind of fill us in on what's going there.
Okay, now you can go, Joe. Yeah, good evening, Board President Stafford, board members, Superintendent Bennett, and cabinet members. And so I'm going to tag off of Judy and Art and continue talking about some of the safety measures that we're going to be implementing and are implementing and have started to implement on our campuses. We've done audits, we're walking sites, we're looking at key areas where we need to add some of these items to make sure to keep our staff as safe as possible and visitors to our campuses. And it's the new normal, right? This is our new normal, and we see these when we go to CVS, we go to Starbucks, we see these items. We're seeing plexiglass barriers at key areas. For example, reception areas, we started today. Some of our maintenance and operations staff, they're showing great pride in working in these areas and learning how to install these plexiglass barriers and working with the material and putting it in to provide a safe safe environment for our staff. Certain workstations, attendance windows, where people are working, we're replacing these plexiglass barriers to provide a safe environment. Ground markings for social distancing, we've seen them everywhere we go, right? There's, again, our new normal stickers that go on the ground that remind people to maintain that 6 foot distance, social distancing. And they say other messages on them. So we're looking at placing those on our campuses. I call it Covert recommendation signage. There's just signs that are put around the campus to remind people to wear their face coverings, to wash their hands, to maintain social distance, and to adhere to whatever guidelines are in place at that time when we're on our campuses. Stuff changes so quickly and almost on a day-to-day basis, but the basics are the hand washing, the social distancing, and the face covering. So it's important to identify these key areas on our campuses where we can place these plexiglass barriers, ground markings, and the signage. Another thing we're doing is Art ordered, and we have received hand sanitizer dispensers. You've probably already seen a few around our campuses because we had some in stock, and then portable sanitizing stations. And these are stands that are going to be placed in entrances to offices around campuses that are going to be available for staff to use, visitors to our campuses to use, and eventually, someday when students come back, we're going to have these on a much larger scale placed around our campuses. And also, right now, since we have essential staff working on our campuses, mostly in offices and counseling and those types of areas, we're going through and conducting audits, measuring rooms, figuring out how many people can fit in a space to maintain social distance. It's not a lot. Some of our office lobbies can only hold 2 people. But we'll put social distancing markers on the ground, and we'll put some outside the door. So we're all used to it by now, right? We go somewhere and we have to wait outside till it's our turn to go inside. So we're looking at our sites, looking to see where these areas are, and strategically getting a plan in place to place these items that will increase safety for staff. And with that, that concludes our presentation. And any questions you have for the 3 of us?
Okay, we'll start with trustees. Does anyone have any questions? Trustee Rao, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Trustee Stafford. Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First of all, I want to say thank you for going in detail about the specific elements of the sanitation process, disinfecting process in the plan. Now I would like to talk about, before getting into the big idea, I have one few questions for Art. Hey, Art, you talk about different sprayers and different equipment. Do we have those in the district? I think I remember 2 or 3.
Right.
The 3 of them?
No, Jose, right. That's what my volume does, because I'm one of my head. Right now, we have 17 of the cartridges, and between Judy and I, we have 20 of the handheld Victories, and we have 4 Victory backpack sprayers, the electrostatics.
And they're distributed at the sites, right, at the schools?
At the smaller sites, but not at the comprehensive high schools. We have
okay.
We have 3 for Heritage, 3 for Paloma, 3 for Perris High School, 2 for Pinnacotti, 2 for CMI, and 1 for the district office, PALS, Perris Lake, and SSC. Of the cartridges.
So from what I'm hearing, they haven't been used. They are brand new at this time.
I can't hear you. Did you say, are we using them?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Our custodians have been trained, is my understanding, and
no, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, the custodians are being trained, but we haven't trained all the custodians at Paloma, Heritage, not the 3 comprehensive high schools. But see, remember when we had first started, we were doing 2 days on, then we had a custodian go from here, and then 2 days at each of the comprehensive high schools. So all the ones that were here that was doing here, PALS, SSC, Perris Lake, the maintenance office, and the district office up and downstairs, yes, they have. They've been trained on both of them. But we wanted to train the comprehensive high school because they have a larger group of custodians there. So, because we wanted to bring, okay, these are the 3 cartridges that you guys are going to use, and these are the electrostatic. So it's easier to get them to do a hands-on so they can see it. Because if you use the cartridge, it's almost like if you have a spray painted before, if you ever painted houses. It's just an easy flow with your hand like that. With the electrostatic one, it is different. So you set it at the highest micron that you want. And it's almost like you waving so that it'll cover everything in that room.
Okay, thank you, Art. And also, they have been receiving, or they will receive, all the
PPE?
No, he froze.
Oh.
There you
go. Okay.
Yeah, our custodians, besides the training, are going to receive the protecting resources, the equipment, protective equipment that they need in order to apply those chemicals.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so the big picture is we haven't used them. They are going to be trained, and from the structural model, we are going to reevaluate it every grading period. If the situation gets better and we go to phase 2, that potentially it might be the hybrid model, we are getting prepared in advance. We are being proactive and being.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, he froze again.
Oh.
So can I jump in real quick? Dr. Rao, I'm not sure if you can hear me. And Art, just to add a little bit to it. So the custodians at the smaller sites have been trained. At the larger sites, you have the machines available, and they are going to be rolled out and used on our hybrid model and on a larger scale. But at the high school level, the site custodians are physically cleaning the areas where we have staff, right, Art?
Right, they're doing that now, the areas that we have staff. Yes.
Yeah, they're doing it by hand, the old-fashioned model, and eventually they will be trained and they'll use the machines that we have that are going to make life a lot easier, especially when we go to the hybrid model and we have a lot more people on the campus.
It'll be faster and more efficient.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Dr.
thank
Rao.
you all. Yeah, thank you. That was it, Trustee Stafford. Thank you, Hector and Art.
Okay.
Next up, Trustee Garcia. We'll just go down the list and see if we have questions.
No, I'm good. They answered everything. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Freeman.
Yeah, I'm fine too. When they get done, they come to my house.
Get that room before you got in there.
They did.
Okay. Trustee Mellison.
I'm also good on questions. I think they answered everything I was interested in. Thank you.
Okay. And myself, I have a lot of questions, of course. but I'm gonna hit you with a couple that maybe you guys, it came up earlier, and it's uniforms that the custodians clean in. My big concern is I know you provide uniforms through a uniform service. We still do that, right?
Right, was sent us.
Okay. My main thing is they tend to wear those uniforms home. And I know from the fire department that you don't want that contamination coming home. Are you training them to properly decontaminate and change their clothes? Do they have a place to do that, get that stuff off of them, and come home at least halfway germ free?
Well, when I was doing it, I couldn't come in the house. I had sweatpants and gym shoes at the garage door.
Yeah,
I did all my stuff there.
Okay.
But they have a locker here though. They could also do that here, Tony, because they have enough uniforms that they can wear one a day, leave it at the school, have them cleaned, and then go home with something else. But that's something that we could talk about with them too.
Yeah,
uniforms home.
Some training on that. The other thing is time to do the spraying and the wiping. One of the machines was a 10-minute dwell time, and the other was a 5-minute dwell time. I think the small spray is a 5-minute dwell time, right?
It was the chemical. The Vindicator is a 10-minute dwell time. Vital oxide is a 5-minute kill claim.
So either chemical could be used anywhere?
And either machine, yes. That's why we want for the versatility. The vital oxide I like because it'll crinkle your papers on your desk, but it won't stain your Candace looking at her papers. It won't stain.
Put them away.
Right.
Well, thinking
it has a yellow color to it, so it will stain it. It'll stain your papers.
Thinking in terms of, if we get back up to speed and we have to decontaminate classrooms after each use, that 5-minute dwell time. Number one, I don't think we have enough personnel to do that. I don't know how we're going to address that. That'll come later. But at least that 5-minute dwell time is short, where it could be sprayed and wiped down. And classrooms could be done if things got to that point where we had to do something like that. We're not sure what we're going to have to do, but at least you have the capability to add personnel if you needed to, right?
Right. Yes. Judy and I are working on, with the VO, we no company will give us a dispenser because we're not using their chemical. We want to do it on our own. So right now we're trying to find someone to make us a dispenser so we can do the VO straight 9-to-1 and 5-to-1.
Okay.
And Tony, may I just clarify something real quick? And Art, you're the expert here, so I'm looking to you. Tony, I think I may have heard you say with the 5-minute dwell time chemical that they have to wipe it afterwards. And I believe that's not correct. Isn't that right, Art?
You don't have to wipe it off.
And that's why he likes that chemical.
So the 10 minutes you do, though.
Yes.
Right, 10 minutes through the cartridge. But if I put the Vindicator through the electro, it's still the dwell time, the kill time is still the same. That's why correct with the vital oxide, no matter I put it through the Victory or the cartridge.
Okay. So the main problem, seems like you have the means, is the time factor if we were up to full speed to be able to decontaminate, which I know is something that hopefully you'll look at and be able to work out. You have restrooms and all these different areas.
Judy and I are coming up with a plan along with Hector. We are. We don't know. That's the hard part. We don't know. Yeah. We don't know yet.
I haven't seen the CDC guidelines yet. Have you guys had a look at those, Judy? Have you had a look at the guidelines?
You're talking about for disinfecting?
Yes.
Yeah, honestly, yes, Tony. And most of them, they say they use the word regularly or there's no time limit or they say at least daily. So it's and then one good thing about the VO, when you look at dwell times. And so the total dwell time would be 5 minutes to kill like everything. The good thing about coronavirus and or influenza viruses, they're actually pretty easy to kill. So there's actually a shorter dwell time needed for those. But for like C. diff and the stuff that, you know, the nasty stuff, that would be the 10-minute and the 5-minute. So even though you might not be able to have a wait a full 10 minutes or a full 5 minutes, if you're doing some high touch areas in between, or counters where people are, what Art is using would actually still really be effective against the coronavirus and, you know, any type of influenza virus.
Okay.
Hey, Tony, I'd like to, applaud Art and Judy because I mean they are grilling these vendors that are coming with these chemicals. They're actually, these chemicals that we're using here in the district are super high quality. They're not just used anywhere. I mean, they're really looking and identifying. And you remember back in the day, Tony, if we got a 10-minute dwell time, that was the industry best. Now we're talking 5 minutes for something that's as serious as COVID. And like Judy says, it might die easily, but the machines that we're using here in the district and the chemicals that we're using, they're super high quality. We're looking at machines that we can put these chemicals down and do it as much square footage as possible in the shortest amount of time as possible. Because especially when we go to an enhanced model, we have more people on campus, it's going to be important to cover as much area as possible and provide a safe environment. So I think it speaks a lot to what Art and Judy are doing, working with vendors and coming up with a good solution for our district.
Okay. I know the vendors are all backed up and it's hard to get this stuff in. There's back ordered and everybody's got an excuse, but it's really great what you guys are doing. I appreciate that. And I'm just, of course, we're still in the middle of this, so we have a lot of concerns. So it's not like you're going to solve it all overnight. You know, we know that.
I would like to add to what Hector's talking about. Just the fact that we have the number of machines we have, Tony, it really speaks to the relationships we've built with the vendors. And so to have that many handhelds and that many Karchers, I know a lot of districts are struggling to find them, and we've been able to do that. So I'm happy about that.
And then going back to the other safety measures, the environmental safety measures, Art and his guys, along with Ruben Aras, and they're looking for plexiglass. They're looking for, we're coming up with a plan for physical distancing reminders, stickers, all that stuff. It sounds easy to get and to make, but everybody's buying those right now. So be proactive in getting these things here in the district, teaching our guys how to work with them, how to build these things and install them. It just goes to the pride that that these departments are taking and keeping staff safe.
And then this may not be your area, which I'm sure it's not because I know the job. How do we get the kids trained to stop being so dirty? I mean, they throw their trash all over the place. They destroy the restrooms. Do we have any sort of hygiene and training programs? And I know that's not your particular area. Who is that? Where is that program?
That's we call that job security.
Oh my God. Okay.
That should be at home.
I understand the realities of campus life. So if you coordinate with who's where that's going to fit in the curriculum, I'd like to see that.
It's not all of them. It's just some. And the relationship that the campus soups have with the students there. I mean, they get on it when they catch them.
Yeah.
And the kids know when they call, they know better.
Yeah. It's a lot of kids, you know, we have a lot of kids on campus. Anyway, thank you guys for the presentation. I really appreciate it. And I think we got to it. David, did you have anything did I get you? Okay.
I'm good. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're fine for now. So Brant, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here, Tony.
Okay.
That was
okay.
That was the indoor study session.
Okay.
Materials. One thing, if I could for a second, Tony, I just want to our families that are out there listening and to our constituents that are out there listening, I just want to apologize to them for, you know, we sent out a survey to them a little premature, and we made a mistake, and I just want to make sure that the community knows that it was on us here at the district office and not the board that had made that mistake.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Grant.
That's all I'd have for this evening.
Okay. So thank you, everybody, for tonight's meeting. We'll meet again very soon. If anybody has any further comments, does any other board members have any further comments? I don't see any hands up, or Dr. Rao, I can't see you, so.
Yes.
I do.
You do? Okay, we'll take Dr. Freeman.
Okay. This is an unusual thing for me. I wrote it all down and it's a little bit long. I said teachers are teaching 5 days per week. The format of the teaching and learning changes out of necessity. It actually requires teachers to work more than previously required. My wife hasn't gone anywhere without using her laptop computer and doing webinars. Comparing COVID-19 with flu or other illnesses is not logical. It says there is no comparison possible, as would be comparing apples and oranges. I respectfully disagree with the speaker who stated that parents are not their children's teachers. This is patently false. The main priority of parenting is to teach their children. The district survey was not intended to serve as a menu to choose the instructional method flavor. Our superintendent has addressed the misunderstanding. The number of school districts selecting only virtual distance learning is overwhelmingly large. It includes the largest districts, including Los Angeles, San Diego, and Oakland, and many others, even here in the Inland Empire. In making my decision, I leaned on my 30 years experience as a teacher, 12 years of experience as a school board member, and 23 years of experience as a father. I concluded that the health of everyone is priority number one. Children who are seriously ill or dead aren't going to learn anything. 2020 has taken everyone by surprise. The past several months have been spent properly and effectively to provide a high level of learning for the 2020 and 2021 school year and beyond. PUHSD has not been sitting on their hands. Technology provides us with the means to provide the appropriate education for every student. The format is evolving. Change is hard. The great and amazing thing is, I feel, the ability of humans to accept change and to progress as a society and as an individual. That's the end of my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Freeman. Dr. Rao, did you have comments?
Yes, thank you, Trustee Stafford. I just want to say thank you to all the members of the cabinet for today's presentation. I'm really glad to see that we are addressing a lot of the concerns that we presented during the last board meeting. Being online, the online instructional model, I agree is not the ideal, but at this time is the best thing that we can do to ensure the safety of our staff and our students. These are unprecedented times. So I'm asking for the collaboration of all the stakeholders, our parents, our students, to let's work together. Let's be united during these difficult times. We will address this situation at the first grading period, second grading period. If that situation changes, we are going to analyze the other options like a hybrid model, an instructional model. If that is possible, where we can significantly reduce the risk of having a student or a staff member infected, we will proceed like that. I'm glad that we are getting ready from the perspective of ensuring the safety of the schools based on the presentation for our maintenance and operations department. So that is really, really important. And I just want to share this message with everybody that we are doing, we are embracing science and the data in order to ensure we cannot afford to put at risk the safety, the health, and the life, not even of one of our students, of one of our staff members. That we are addressing the social emotional element, special ed, English learners. Mr. Bennett and Dr. Newman, something that I didn't recommend during the last board meeting. I completely didn't remember to include that, but I would like to do it for the next board meeting to make a presentation on how we are addressing the needs of our foster youth students. If we are talking about special ed, we're talking about our English learners and they have their families and they are facing challenges. Our foster youth need our support, right? So please, we would like to know, I would like to know how we are going to be supporting our foster youth. Another concern that I have is the meals that we are providing to our students. I have been receiving and reading, receiving some comments, emails, and reading on social media about the concern of some members of our community in terms of the meal. For some of our students, the breakfast and lunch that they receive at the schools is the opportunity that they have to get a better nutrition. Right? So the fact that we are providing is my understanding that at this time we are providing 1 day only and we give them the meals the equivalent for 7 days. If a parent or a student cannot come to pick up their meals that day for any reason, what are they going to eat during the whole week? How are we going to supporting that element, right? So something to consider. I know that it's more convenient for the district to do it once a week. I don't know if that is the only reason. Maybe there are any other factors that are taken in consideration in order to make that decision. But and we do it at least 2 or 3 times a week, so our parents, our community have the opportunity. If they cannot 1 day for any reason, medical appointment or anything that they have to do, they have more opportunities. So I would like to address all the elements throughout the spectrum of the needs of our community and our students to make this successful. We are working together, we are united, and together we are going to be successful. And we are going to come out stronger through this unprecedented situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Did I get everybody? Grant, did you have any last comments?
No, I don't, but I don't think you've talked to Mr. Garcia or Mr. Nicholson yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Trustee
right.
Garcia? Oh,
Yes, can you hear me?
yes.
I'm in agreement with all of my fellow colleagues here. When we made this decision, we used data and all the information that we could use. It wasn't just a split decision. It took a lot of time, a lot of information. We listened to everybody, the community, the students, parents, teachers, even the classified employees. So all this misinformation that's being spread out there and the negative attacks, I understand as a parent, when you want something your way, you're going to say and do things to make other people look negative. And it's not about that. We're a family. We cater to other cities, not just Paris. And it's important that everybody understand that we have to factor in everything, especially the demographics. And we want to cater to all of our students, no matter what. They are our priority. We love our students. We love their families. And like Dr. Arau said, we cannot live with one person getting sick or even the worst case scenario. So I want everybody who has input to understand that's why we made our decision, because life is precious and so are our students, and that's just how it is. I also want to agree with Dr. Araus. The food, we need to keep catering to the kids. If they need food, we need to adjust and make it happen because that's what's right. Our children deserve to be fed because not everyone has that opportunity. Like you said, Dr. Rouse, they don't have the opportunity to make it in line. And then I also heard that people are being rejected because they're on foot. That needs to stop. If there's students in our community, in our district, so be it. We shouldn't be turning people down for free food. You know, as long as we have the means, at least, you know, I get all that. And again, I also want the community to know that this decision that we made is temporary. We want our students to come back to school. We want them to engage with other students and teachers and get as much as knowledge, you know, put into them as possible because we want to be the best. You know, I could easily say I want to be Perris strong, Perris united, but the reality is we cater to all these communities, so we're Perris Union High School District strong. And if there's anything I could say or do for the community, reach out to me and I'll do the best that I can. And I want to applaud Mr. Bennett and this cabinet for the wonderful job that you all have done in these hard times. You know, you guys are fantastic. Fantastic. Don't let the negativity get to you because I know it's gotten to me, but I had to reevaluate and I had to get spoken to understand that we're here for a reason and you are doing a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. Any cabinet members? Is there anyone I missed? So we get everybody. Okay. Well, just thank everyone for being here tonight and spending your time. It takes a while to learn the process if you're new here, getting involved in it, all the acronyms, and we may know what we're talking about. We're talking a certain language, and you're like, well, what was that? And what does that mean? And so we want everybody to be included and to know, so we're not just throwing around phrases, which we aren't, because each thing is very important. But it takes a little while to get comfortable with it. We all do in the end, like learning anything, learning to ride a bike. So I have confidence in all of our staff, but I want the best for our kids, our parents, grandparents. They mean the most. Lives are so much more important than any material thing, or that you can't wait for a minute for things to be safe for you. So let's be safe and have a good evening, and thank you very much. So we're going to go to item 8.1, which is adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I have Dr. Freeman and Trustee Garcia. And let's have an oral vote. Trustee Rao.
Aye.
Trustee Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee Freeman.
Aye.
Trustee Nellison.
Aye.
Myself, Trustee Stafford. Upon a roll call being taken, the vote was 5-0 for adjournment. You can vote electronically if you go to a computer. There it is. We are now adjourned at 7:32 p.m.